You are doing everything right. You're journaling. You're showing up to therapy. You're praying. You're trying to move forward, but somehow you still don't feel better. The pain is still there. The heaviness hasn't lifted, and you're wondering, am I even healing at all? Here's the unspoken question. Why does it still hurt if I'm doing the work? And here's the hardest truth that most people don't want to talk about. Healing doesn't always feel good. Sometimes the very moment you begin healing is when everything starts to unravel. That doesn't mean something's wrong with you. It means something's finally working. You're no longer avoiding. You're finally processing everything. In this video, you'll learn 5 powerful truths that will change how you understand the entire healing process. Number 1, why healing often feels worse before it feels better. The second thing is why healing doesn't look like what you were told. Third, we're going to talk about how to tell the difference between being stuck and actually processing. The fourth thing is how to recognize progress, even when it's quiet. And then finally, number 5, why healing and hurting can happen at the exact same time. These are not surface level tips. These are truths that make the process make sense, and they just might help you breathe a little deeper today. So if you've been asking yourself, why don't I feel better yet? Let's start with the truth that catches most people off guard. Healing can hurt before it helps. When you begin to heal, you're not just recovering, you're facing. And that means emotions you buried start coming to the surface. Grief, regret, sadness, anger. It feels like things are getting worse, but they're not getting worse. They're just getting real. I remember once sitting in silence for the first time after a major emotional loss. I expected peace, but what I got was a storm. I cried harder than I ever had. At the time, I thought I was breaking, but now I know I was finally opening. Here's what I discovered. Sometimes healing feels like hurting because for the first time, the pain is being acknowledged, not ignored. That is not failure. That's progress. When you stop running from what hurt you, it finally has room to surface, and that surfacing is what makes release possible. It's kind of like pulling out a splinter from your finger. It stings when it comes out, but the healing can finally begin. And the sting doesn't mean it's getting worse. It means the wound is no longer infected. It just finally exposed to the air. But here's where a lot of people get really confused because we've been told this big lie about healing and what it should look like. You know, we're taught to think that healing is easy, pretty, calm, and peaceful. We see montages of bubble baths, sunsets, and long walks. But real healing is messy. It is difficult. Sometimes you find yourself crying on the couch, maybe even on the kitchen floor. Sometimes you feel numb for weeks. Sometimes you snap at someone for no reason and wonder if you're going backwards. A friend once told me, I must not be healing. I'm crying every single day. But crying is the work. Grieving is the work. Setting boundaries is the work. Sitting with your triggers instead of running from them, that's the work. I've discovered you do not have to feel good to be healing. You just have to be honest and you have to be consistent. Healing doesn't always come with clarity or calm. Sometimes it comes with chaos because that's what honesty sounds like when it's been bottled up for way too long. Here's an example. Healing is less like a spa day and more like a renovation. You have to tear down walls before you rebuild. And during that demolition, everything looks worse before it looks better. But that doesn't mean it's not working. It means the foundation is being reset. So, and when everything feels loud, when everything feels uncertain, here's where most people panic. They assume they're stuck. But this brings us to the next truth about the healing process. Healing doesn't always move fast. Sometimes it doesn't feel like you're moving at all. You're not crying every day anymore, but you're not happy either. You're not breaking down, but you don't feel like you're moving forward. You feel like you're just floating. That doesn't mean you're stuck, though. That means your system integrating. I went through a stretch for a long period of healing where I felt very numb, not sad, not happy, just still. And I judged myself for it. But what I learned was this: that stillness was part of the reset. My heart was catching up with the pain it finally admitted. So I discovered this really important. Stillness doesn't mean you're stuck. It means your system is absorbing the impact before it moves again. Processing looks like pausing, reflecting, listening. It may not look productive, but it's some of the most important emotional work you'll ever do. It's kind of like watching a snow globe settling over after being shaken. Nothing looks clear until the flurry calms down. And just because it's quiet doesn't mean nothing's happening. It means clarity is returning slowly and on time. And once things begin to settle, here's the good part. You start to see something you never noticed before: progress. Not all growth comes with applause. Sometimes progress is you choosing to pause before reacting. Sometimes it's going to bed without overthinking. Sometimes it's feeling sad and not judging yourself for it. Those are wins. You don't have to be smiling every day to call it progress. You just need to be showing up differently, slowly, authentically. Here's what I discovered. Progress in healing looks like presence in pain. It's not about the absence of hurt. It's about your new response to it. Every time you respond in a way that's a little more grounded, a little less reactive, that's healing at work. I want you to think of a tree growing slowly in the forest. You don't see every change, but month after month, it reaches higher and higher and higher because its roots are deepening in silence. And that silence, that's growth. That's exactly what your soul is doing during this healing process. Now, here's the truth that might be the most important one of all, because it gives you permission to stop judging yourself for still feeling pain. Healing is not the end of pain. It is the beginning of a new relationship with it. You can be in the process of recovery and still feel sorrow. You can be growing and grieving at the same time. One doesn't cancel out the other. I used to think that setbacks meant I was failing, but now I know they were just reminders that healing is layered. You don't just get over something. You grow through it in waves, in spirals, in steps. So I discovered this: healing and hurting are not opposites. They're companions. One does not cancel the other. Some days you'll feel strong. Other days you're going to feel fragile. Both are valid. Both are real, and both belong to the process. It's like learning to walk again after an injury. You'll limp before you stride, but the limp doesn't mean you're broken. It means you're moving. And that movement, however imperfect, it's the best place to be in. The best way to track that sacred progress, the best way to just kind of keep track of everything, is by making space for your truth to speak daily, even if it's just one page at a time. Healing doesn't happen in your head. It happens in reflection, and reflection starts on paper. What part of me still feels broken, and what part of me is quietly getting stronger? Write honestly. You're not writing for likes or feedback. You're writing for release. You're writing for clarity. You're writing for healing. Journaling reveals the healing your heart hasn't found words for yet. It gives shape to the fog. It gives breath to the ache. It turns the invisible into something you can face, but face with compassion. Your journal isn't a diary. It's a mirror, a soft, quiet mirror that reflects who you are becoming, even when you can't quite see it yet. And every time you return to that mirror, your reflection gets clearer. So let's close with a reminder of what's true. especially on the days when you don't feel better yet. You showed up today. You reflected. You gave yourself permission to feel what's real. That's healing. Let's recap the 5 truths that we uncovered. Healing can feel worse before it feels better. It rarely looks like what you were told. You're not stuck. You're processing. Progress is often quiet, and you can be healing and hurting at the exact same time. You don't have to feel healed to be healing. Don't quit just because it still hurts. Don't backtrack just because you're tired. You're doing better than you think. Comment below. Be sure to do that. What part of today's message hit the deepest for you? Then, once you're done, subscribe, because this 30-day challenge isn't just for content. It's your recovery space. And if you haven't done this already, be sure to get your I Will Be My Best Today journal. Let it become the place where your healing has a home. The link is in the description below.